punish him with the rod severely. That's what you do to screamers around here. And if you have fun, it'll be a lot easier training. Feel like a winner. You get 5 licks for being mean, you get 5 more for lying. You don't see who's lying.
Hi y'all, and thanks for joining me as I break down Chapter 2 of Michael and Debi Pearl's book, To Train Up a Child. As I started reading Chapter 2, I realized that there's not a lot of substance to this chapter. I can't tell you how many times the words moral development appear in this chapter. It almost feels like this was the filler of the book. There's nothing really here to read about or to snark about. Some stuff is true, like babies only know self-gratification and that they're self-centered, and of course they are. They can't do anything for themselves. They're not going to be doing something for you. They're a baby. So I'm sure we disagree on why they're self-centered, but yes, you are correct. But he goes on to speak about how parents are the responsible for the moral development of their children, which, as the parents, you're going to be the first person that a baby looks up to that's going to see how to live. So, of course, what you teach a child to do is what a child's going to do. But then he gets into talking about walking after the Spirit. And how even before a child's conscience begins to operate, you must train him to practice self-restraint, which goes back into how he's going to train a child to do that. There is no way to train a child's conscience before it begins to operate that doesn't involve just breaking the will of a child, and we know that's exactly what he's going to have us doing. He compares you to the clay, and you as the parent can be the wheel. And I would say that this wouldn't be a bad comparison if it were coming from anyone other than Michael Pearl. So it just feels like this chapter is going to be super duper short. There's just not a whole lot here. I almost worry if I shouldn't have done Chapter 3 with it. After I got done reading Chapter 2, I reread it 3-4 times because I thought maybe I'm missing something. I'm missing the point of this chapter. I'm missing something. So I went and tried to see if anyone else had broken this book down chapter by chapter, and I didn't want to plagiarize them. I just wanted to see, what was I missing? What did they take away? And I did find one other person who broke this down, and I found it on whynottotrainachild.com, and it's a review by someone named Wendy. And when you scroll down far enough to finally get to Chapter 2 of her review, it's just, this is the only thing she wrote. What is the driving force in this child, and how can it be conquered? And yes, that's he could have saved everyone a lot of time and just written that. He could have saved me time, you time, all of us time. He could have saved himself time. He could have saved himself time from writing the story at the beginning of the chapter that absolutely makes no sense. Just last night, while sitting in a meeting, I looked over to see a young mother struggling with her small child. He seemed determined to make her life as miserable as possible and to destroy her reputation in the process. So mothers, take note. You got a squirmy kid, your reputation's trash. She had the why me look on her tired face. He kept defiantly throwing his bottle on the floor, encouraged by her picking it up and handing it back to him, and making angry noises that forced the preacher to speak louder and louder. And this is where I'm going to stop reading his story, and we're going to say that didn't happen. Because anyone who's ever been to a church will know that a parent will not allow their child to disrupt a sermon like that. If they're a baby or too young to know better, they pick the baby up and they leave and they go to the nursery or they go to a child's classroom and they stay gone until the child is calmed back down. That is common practice, and it's ridiculous for you to pretend otherwise. However, that did make me feel a little better that I wasn't the only one that didn't see a whole lot to actually talk about in chapter 2. I really do think it was basically like a playbook of why it was okay for him to start training someone as young as a newborn with, the whole hair pulling and whatnot. It was really hard to read because it was, there's some things in this chapter that are absolutely true about children, like I've said before, but then you get to parts where he compares a baby's behavior to that of an adult that has vices, and that's where you lose me again, Mr. Pearl. That's nothing alike. That's not even remotely close to one another. Like, I almost want to ask him if he, strained his shoulder reaching that hard. So, of course, this video is going to be much shorter than the one last week because that chapter was a doozy. This chapter feels like he sent the book into the editor, and the editor was like, no, it's got to be X number of pages or they won't print it. And so he's like, all right, bet. That's what this chapter felt like. I'm probably going to be wishing that I was still reading this chapter the further we get into this book, but I guess we'll have to wait till next week to find that out. Tune in next time for chapter 3. Thanks, y'all.